Rex Ryan has been at the along. All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So, former Jets head coach Rex Ryan, along with the entire Jets fan base, has really been at the forefront of voicing the displeasure, the frustrations, and the problems with this team in 2024. There is a myriad of different issues. We all know them. We watch this just horrifying mess every single Sunday, despite what's said throughout the week, despite the great weeks of practice. It's just, Sunday 1 o'clock hits, or, I guess in this case, a lot of primetime games. We've got another one this Thursday. It's not until game day where the misery just unfolds. And it's just absolutely disgraceful. It truly is. And so Rex Ryan he's been at the forefront. He has been vocal about, how pissed he is because he bleeds green, right? Rex is a New York Jet. In his words, he says he is a New York Jet and he wants the best for this franchise. And so, he has had, big statement after big statement after big statement. The defense is overrated. Is obviously he's completely ripped apart the offense, completely ripped apart the coaching staff over and over and over again. And today he was asked about, the head coaching possibility, right? Obviously, Robert Saleh let go. Jeff Ulbrich hasn't shown a single thing on why the Jets should give him the full-time job moving forward. As much as I would like to see the Jets go on a huge winning streak and, right off into the sunset this season, making the playoffs and having this historic run, we haven't really been shown anything to give us belief in that regard. It's been the same exact problems with or without Robert Saleh. So when asked about this, Rex said that he would take the job in a heartbeat and that he really hopes that he gets an opportunity to interview with this football team. And so it begs the question, right? Could Rex Ryan take over? Would you like Rex Ryan to take over as the next head coach of the New York Jets? I think Rex checks off a lot of different boxes. But with every head coaching candidate, there is a list of positives and there's also a list of negatives. So in this one, I wanted to give my 2 cents on it. So let's talk about the positives first. What would Rex Ryan, how crazy is this, man? What would Rex Ryan bring to the New York Jets in 2025? That's crazy. That's crazy. He would bring toughness. He would bring physicality. He would bring a sense of discipline. My Lord, do the Jets need a sense of discipline? And I do feel as though he would bring a standard. He would bring head coaching experience. He would bring wins to New York. He's already worked with Woody Johnson. He's already won in this market. That's the last time the Jets have had success. I don't think he's a guy, especially, at this point in his career, where he's been out of football for so long. He's obviously not 35 years. I mean, we're seeing all these young coaches getting hired. Dave Canales, Sean McVay, all these different young coaches. Rex Ryan, he has been around the game for a long time. Coach's son. He's been the Jets coach. He's been the Buffalo Bills head coach. He's been a part of different organizations, obviously coming over from the Baltimore Ravens to the New York Jets. No BS. And those are all traits that I want in the next head coach of the New York Jets. I want there to be a standard. Let's just list off any well-ran team in football. The Steelers, the Packers, the Bills, the Lions, the Chiefs, the Ravens. There's a standard there. There is a standard. There is leadership. There's accountability. There's a real sense of, this is professional football here. And right now, you're looking at the New York Jets and the laundry list of issues and problems, continuously beating themselves week after week. Nothing ever changes. That is very, very alluring. That is, I want that desperately in my favorite team. It is ridiculous that we see the same issues weekly. Flat out ridiculous. And I think Rex Ryan, has the unique perspective of, he's been the head coach of the Jets before. He knows what it takes to win, but he's been out of football for so long. He has a good, or again, unique vantage point of the fan, of the media. He is part of the media, which, I feel like sometimes gets lost if you're, in the day-to-day, if you're a part of the coaching staff, or if you are a player and you're just kind of grinding away hour after hour, day after day. It's hard to get that outsider's perspective, and Rex has that exactly. I think he would whip the defense into shape. I think we would not see blown tackles, missed assignments, and just the undisciplined play, guys afraid to tackle, poor safety play, what can't stop the run. I mean, talk about a Rex Ryan defense. What is it? Doesn't matter who's out there. You could throw out. There were times where Rex would have to put a wide receiver at corner and they would go out and make plays. They would actually look functional at the position, right? He could take 6th round guys or practice squad guys, put them in positions to have success, and they would go out and do that. Todd Bowles, same way on the defensive side of the football. Just when it comes to his style of defense, he's just a flat out mastermind. He does a great job of maybe masking defensive players' weaknesses and showing off their strengths. Stopping the run, right? And again, I think Rex would come in and provide a blueprint. He would provide a foundation. This is who we are. This is who we're going to play like. This is how we're going to act on a day-to-day basis. And this is where we're going. Does anybody actually feel like that from this Jets regime? Does anybody actually feel as though there's a leader within this clubhouse? Ulbrich, Hackett, Downing, Joe Douglas. It just feels like it's Tyson from Let's Talk Jets Radio made a good point in his recap video. It just feels like it's a rudderless ship off in the distance. And I think Rex would come in with that understanding, with that unique perspective and say, you know what? Let's go get this thing done. And let's go eat a goddamn snack. But of course, right, we do have to bring up some of the questions with hiring a Rex Ryan, which if we take a look at, again, objectively, if we take a look at his Jets career, he ultimately was fired. And the reason why he was fired was because when he initially took over, the Jets were actually a really good team. We had a lot of things figured out. We had a lot of good pieces. We had a lot of talented players, and he came in and kind of sparked this team, right? Going from Mangini to Rex Ryan, it was just like this, it's just this, shot of adrenaline, right? I'm coming over from Baltimore. We're going to play tough defense, play like a New York Jet, right? Brings that physicality and toughness. Not saying that Mangini's teams weren't tough, not in the least, but when it comes to going from Mangini to Rex, it kind of just felt like it was the perfect storm. We had a good enough roster to make noise, and we were knocking on the door of the playoffs. We needed someone just to come in, take the organization by the horns, and just drag us into the playoffs. And Rex was that guy. Again, perfect timing, perfect attitude, perfect thing for what we needed at that point in time. But when the Jets started to adjust, right, because let's face it, this is the NFL. You can't just sign every good player available, draft every good player available, re-sign every good player available, and that's it until the end of time, right? It's just unrealistic to have A pluses at every single position. There's going to be guys that you can't afford. There's going to be guys that, we missed on this draft pick, or this free agent signing didn't work out, or this player wants to, more money, or this player wants to be traded, whatever it is. You're never going to have the perfect roster. So when the Jets started to adjust out of that kind of, not necessarily win now, because I always felt like the Jets were win now under Rex, but when we went from those loaded veteran teams, lots of guys on 1-2 year deals, lots of guys that played a lot of NFL football, the LTs, the Bart Scotts, Cromarties, the list goes on, right? So many. The offensive line was stacked, mangled, the brick, loaded. These teams were loaded. When those teams started to transition around that 2012 mark, 2013, you saw a shift, right? And the Jets went from no joke playoff contender. They can beat anyone on any given Sunday, and they were going to hit you in the mouth. No one wanted to play the Jets. To, okay, you're starting to see some chinks in the armor. There were some cracks in some areas, some maybe weaknesses that were exploited. One of which was the offensive side of the football. You kind of felt like, much like Todd Bowles, and much like Robert Saleh, it's just, a constant search for the offensive coordinator. And if that offensive coordinator is good, great. But you know what? He's probably going to be gone sooner rather than later because he's going to get a head coaching job. And if he's not good, he's going to be fired, and the Jets are going to have to look for someone else. I mean, think about how many offensive coordinators the Jets ran through in these last, 10, 12 years. So many of them. So in this situation, I think the first question that has to be asked here, what is the plan for this team? If the Jets are going to go into full rebuild mode, right, where Rodgers is the quarterback, and they don't want to bring back any of the veterans on 1-year deals, the Morgan Moseses, the DJ Reeds, the Tyron Smiths, the Conklins, right? All these guys, they don't want to bring them back. And you want to maybe pivot and say, hey, you know what? We gotta hit the reset button on this. Clear money, add draft picks, start building through the draft and working your way up. I don't necessarily know if Rex, checks that box of being the perfect coach for a rebuild. Unless, of course, he's down for the long-term build. But if the Jets want to, keep a lot of these veterans, re-sign a bunch of guys, and try to run it back, or try to do a little bit of what the Jets did this past season, where we're going to move off from a bunch of guys, JFM, Quentin Jefferson, Bryce Huff, and we're just going to try to flip-flop and replace them with the Kinlaws of the world, the Lecky Fotus of the world. Mike Williams can be thrown into that mix as well. Hassan Reddick. If that's the case, then I do like Rex's role a little bit more. Again, I think Rex would work for a rebuild, but not if you're going to give him a 2-year deal, 3-year deal, right? I think it would have to be a longer deal, and Rex would have there needs to be a full commitment to the rebuild. We can't do this 1 foot in, 1 foot out type of situation. Again, when the Jets started to shift away from these stacked playoff rosters, and we started to go, morph into maybe not as talented as a group, the defenses were still fantastic, but you saw the wins drop, you saw the losses increase, and I legitimately think I cried the day the Jets fired Rex. Like, that's how much I loved him, and how much I just didn't want to see the regime change, right? But there were solid points on why the Jets did in fact let him go. So I think really, if the Jets want to hire Rex Ryan, and by the way, this kind of feels a little bit like the Raiders bringing back John Gruden, right? Obviously the Raiders had a ton of success under Gruden originally back in the, late 90s, early 2000s. They bring him back, and so anyway, yes, they go from Gruden to Callahan, and they're cycling through all these different coaches throughout the years. Dennis Allen, and man, long list. Del Rio, all these different guys, and it's like, you know what? We're not really having this long-term success. Let's just get back to who we are. Let's get back to what we know, which was John Gruden. And Gruden ultimately didn't work out, but it does kind of have a similar feel, where the Jets have just been kind of spinning their wheels in mediocrity since Rex was the coach last. Obviously the Gase years, the Darnold, it was just, tons of losses all over the place. And it's just, again, sickening as a Jet fan. We could all talk about the playoff drought. It's just a flat out embarrassment. It needs to be on the right track at some point in time. And again, I do feel like Rex would bring a lot of those qualities. But if the Jets decide to go down this path and hire Rex, I think there needs to be a full commitment. I think there needs to be a solid offensive plan, and there needs to be a solid quarterback in place. It can't be, let's hire Rex and we'll figure out from here. Rex, figure it out. You're our savior now. You wanted the job, save us. That cannot fly. That cannot play out like that. There needs to be a sense of direction, a clear-cut direction that the Jets need to travel down if Rex Ryan becomes the next head coach of this football team. And it starts on the offensive side of the football. Can Rex we've seen it all the time, right? A defensive-minded head coach, and they hire, a young... look at Todd Bowles in Tampa Bay. All the success that he's had down there. A big part of that is because he does a fantastic job of casting a wide net and then vetting, the options, bringing him down to a couple handpicked selections for that Buccaneers offense. Bowles has a good read on what the Bucs offense should look like. So he then brings in guys that runs the system that he feels as though this veteran Bucks offense needs. Whether that's a Liam Cohen this year, a guy who I flat out love, whether that's a Dave Canales last year, there needs to be that same approach. It cannot just be, all right, Rex is the coach. We'll just give the OC job to anyone that'll take it. No, not a sound plan. It's not. And also, what is going to happen with the quarterback position? Someone on the roster, free agency, what's going on with Aaron? Do they draft one? There's 1,010 questions, and we're only going to have the answers in time. But I think there needs to be a solid quarterback. I personally don't trust Rex Ryan to develop a rookie quarterback. I just don't. I think we're going to need an offensive coordinator in that department. So I think there's a lot of positives. I think there are a handful of quality negatives that are completely fair to ask. Now, here's an kind of an alternative way of thinking with this whole Rex Ryan situation. If the Jets don't feel comfortable giving him the head coaching job, they don't want to go down that path. I wonder if Rex could be utilized as a consultant where the Jets pay him, right? He officially, he comes into the organization, has a title, and he's with Woody. He's sitting in on head coaching interviews and helps kind of go throughout that process. And it's not just Woody Johnson making the pick and the new GM making the pick, assuming the season continues, the path it's currently on. But Rex Ryan's also sitting in and giving his 2 cents and asking questions and trying to find attributes and qualities in these candidates to eventually find the next guy. Would Rex Ryan do that? I think it's an interesting option. Again, if the Jets don't really have any interest in bringing him back as a head coach. So anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts down below in the comment section on this whole thing. Do you want Rex back as head coach? Do you not want him back? Do you think it's a step backwards? Do you think that ship is sailed? All points are valid. I think nobody's right or wrong. It's just everyone's opinion, and that's why I love football, right? Because everyone is entitled to their own opinions and takes. And I'm excited to dive into the comments on this one. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you guys, and as always, go Jets.